Hey guys, Brian delivered you the goods here, returning to you this evening time, and hopefully you will enjoy this review for Joe Jonas's new album, Music for People Who Believe in Love. The album that I got a chance to check out for myself. I've been listening to it most of the day, so I've had a little time to marinate on this record. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the 14 tracks on Joe Jonas's Music for People Who Believe in Love album and let you know my thoughts on his sophomore record. So let's dive into this album review. Now, this is his sophomore record. So the last record he dropped was Fast Life, which was 14 years ago. It's been quite a while since he's dropped an album. But from what I've listened to, the intro is the best part. So Woven, featuring Dami and JD Beck, is a pretty good song for how it sounds. I really dig it for how it is. It's going to get a 5 out of 5 because the mixing in it was pretty strong and the melody and all that was pretty good. But overall, it's stood out, but not as much as the next song. But it's still a strong track for an intro track, 5 out of 5. Parachute actually is my personal favorite track. I really like this song. The melody is very catchy. I like the chorus when it comes in. I don't know where I might land. Got life back in my head. I'm dusting up on my hands. Got life back in my hands. I'm dusting off my parachute. So, pretty interesting lyrics for sure. I think the writing in this song was really good. And just overall, the production and mixing for it was really good. This was one of my personal favorite tracks so far this year. I don't know if it's going to be Song of the Year, but still probably a contender for that. But other than that, Parachute is a 5 out of 5. Definitely love this track. I can vibe with this one, and I really enjoyed how when the chorus comes in, it expresses a whole field of emotions that you're feeling when you listen to the chorus of the track. That's the highlight of the song. The verses are pretty strong too for how they start. So, Parachute, 5 out of 5. Work It Out is a good song. I mean, it's not one of my favorites, but this is where the album starts to decline a little, but in a solid way. So, 4.5 out of 5. It's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but Joe Jonas sounds good vocally for the most part, and I do dig it for some of the melody. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5. Only Love is a good track too. I mean, the verses are kind of hit or miss. Not my favorite part of the song, but the chorus when it comes in, it's solid enough to give it a 4.5 out of 5. So I do dig it for how it is. Heart by Heart is a good one. It's a pretty good song for how it sounds. I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. This was a pretty good track in its own way. I mean, the melody is pretty nice, the acoustic guitar work, and just the production and mixing in it, and Joe Jonas' singing was pretty solid enough to get that score of a 4.75 out of 5. So, Honey Blonde is a pretty good one too, for how it sounds. It's going to get a 4.75 out of 5. I do dig how Joe Jonas is singing most of it when the chorus kicks in. And when the verses come in, it's pretty solid enough to be entertaining. So yeah, 4.75 out of 5. Then we get to My Own Best Friend, which was probably one of the weakest songs on the record. But other than that, it wasn't bad, but it's above decent of a track. I think this song could have been better utilized and executed if it didn't sound a little off-putting with the melody. Because the melody kind of just felt a little lazy in this one. I was just not vibing with this one too much. So it's a 4.25 out of 5. Velvet Sunshine is a pretty good track for how it is. It took a little bit of time to grow on me, but I do enjoy it for how it is. 4.75 out of 5. Franklin Jonas, I believe is his name, or Frankie Jonas. I don't know. It said Franklin Jonas when I was downloading it today on my phone, but other than that, Velvet Sunshine's a strong track, so in its own way, 4.75 out of 5. Sip Your Wine featuring Sierra Farrell. Um, Good song, but it's just the verses and the chorus when it comes in. It's pretty basic and nothing out of the ordinary great, but solid in its own way. So it's solid material. 4.5 out of 5. Hey Beautiful featuring Luann and Tiny Habits is a good song for how it is. I do dig how it sounds overall, but it's just the execution can be hit or miss with how it sounds. So it's a 4.5 out of 5. What We Are featuring Louisa Sonza is a good track. I do dig this one. I mean, this could have been a little better, but it's still strong for how it is. 4.75 out of 5. I do dig overall the melody and how it's performing overall with their vocals. Both Joe Jonas and Louisa sound pretty good in this track where they're harmonizing. And when they have their own verses in this track are pretty good. You Got the Right is a good track for how it sounds. I think execution wise, this track did alright for what it set out to do. And it's a good song in its own way. It's solid material for this track. So 4.5 out of 5. I do dig the vibe to it some of the time. But it's a song that may grow on me throughout time. What this could be, it's a pretty good track for how it sounds. I do dig the overall melody to it. Joe Jonas sounds pretty good vocally in this track. And execution-wise, it did pretty well and panned out very well with the melody. So 4.75 out of 5. And finally, Constellation closes out the record. It's more of a rock pop kind of track. Like it has some drumming in it that's pretty solid, but it's just the way Joe Jonas is singing it. I'm not sure if I can vibe with it too much, but I can appreciate it to being a good song for how it sounds. And at least it was an effort to close out the record. I mean, it started off great, it ended alright, basically. So 4.5 out of 5. Overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think Joe Jonas's Music for People Who Believe in Love is a good record. I was very surprised with this record. I wasn't sure if I was going to vibe with this record, but after listening to all 14 tracks, I can say Parachute is my personal favorite track, along with the Woven track, which even Woven was just an intro track. It wasn't anything, it was just introducing the record with a minute and 18 seconds of playtime with the song. But Parachute is probably my personal favorite track. I do dig the vibe. I do dig how Joe Jonas is singing it. And execution-wise, it did very well. And give me a second, I gotta pause the video. Sorry about that, guys. My mom needed my help for a second, so I had to pause the video. But other than that, overall, Joe Jonas's Music for People Who Believe in Love album is a good record. I was very surprised with this record. I didn't think it was... There were a few songs that I wasn't sure if I was going to get on board with, but other than that, from what I listened to, it's a good track. So if I were to give... Or a good album, I should say. So if I were to give Joe Jonas's Music for People Who Believe in Love a score, it's going to get an 8 out of 10. It's a good listen. Definitely recommend this record if you have not checked it out this Friday for May 23rd. It is interesting material. I mean, granted, the only song I thought was my least favorite was probably My Own Best Friend, but everything else sounded good for how it turned out and panned out for the record. So yeah, I gotta end this video now. So with that being said, sorry that I said good track. I meant to say good album in its own way. And I will be returning to you for some Judas Priest material, Judas Priest albums pretty soon. But 8 out of 10 for the new, sorry, that's my cat right here, Titan. 8 out of 10 for Joe Jonas, music for people who believe in love. Thank you for watching this album review tonight.